Well, good morning and welcome to City Hall. Matthew Scraper is the pastor at Southern Hills United Methodist Church. He's going to lead us in our invocation. Afterwards, I'll ask Councilman Stonecipher if he'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. But would everyone please stand?
Let us pray. Gracious and giving God, we give you thanks for the good work that you've called us to here today, even on today, which we are aware is such an important day, not only in the life of our city, but for our entire country. And so, Father, we give you thanks for the opportunity to live in a country where we have the chance to participate in the election of our leaders. We pray for wisdom, we pray for guidance, and we thank you for all of our leaders and all of our citizens, for all of our businesses, for all of our elected leaders who have made Oklahoma City such a wonderful place to live. We pray your blessing upon our work here today, that in all that we do, we might bring honor and glory to you. Amen.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will get started this morning by honoring our Teacher of the Month, and Kristen Lindholm is here. Kristen, come on up. Let's hear it for our Teacher of the Month in Oakland Public Schools. The Rotary Club of Oklahoma City helps us honor one teacher in the metro area for Teacher of the Month honors. And you can imagine that brings in a lot of schools and a lot of teachers. So we're very proud of Kristen. We have a proclamation. Actually, it's a resolution. I'll ask the clerk to read it as we get settled.
Has been named Teacher of the Month for November 2016 by the Edmond Public Schools Foundation and Rotary Club of Oklahoma City. Whereas Kristen is a 6th grade literacy and social studies teacher at Cimarron Middle School. This is her 14th year with Edmond Public Schools and her 5th at Cimarron. In addition to teaching, she has served as a middle school counselor, reading sufficiency tutor, autism task force member, PTO president, and homeroom mother. Whereas Kristen comes from a family of teachers. 3 of her grandparents were teachers, and her maternal grandmother, Georgia Curley, was named Edmond Teacher of the Year in 1979. Kristen is thankful to have been guided by a grandmother's example. In addition to holding multiple teacher certificates, Kristen has a master's degree in counseling and served for 4 years as a counselor at Sequoia Middle School. Whereas Kristen has said that one of her greatest joys comes from teaching an intervention class for struggling readers. When positive gains are made, the whole class takes part in celebrating the triumphs of the individual readers. Whereas Edmond Public Schools Superintendent believes the school district is fortunate to have Kristen in the classroom, as she is a compassionate educator who works tirelessly to meet the needs of each and every one of her students. Whereas Kristen has been married to her husband Nick for 25 years and they have 3 children, Jenna, Jack, and Josh. She is also an active member of her community, serving as an elder and on various committees at Westminster Presbyterian Church. She is deeply involved in the Edmond Autism Association and has coordinated an autism support group for parents of children with autism. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the City of Oklahoma City that they do hereby recognize and commend Kristen Lindholm on her selection as November 2016 Teacher of the Month by Edmond Public Schools Foundation and Rotary Club of Oklahoma City.
Let's hear it for Kristen. And the drama continues because this has to be voted on by the council. So look for a motion. And cast your votes. You want green lights up there, and you got them all. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the City Council and to you, Mayor Cornett, for this honor. This has been quite a year. I was selected as Edmond Teacher of the Year, and the gifts just keep on giving. So this is a job I love. It's my passion, and I owe it all to my grandmother for giving me the start and everything. But my principal's here, Cordell Eric. He says he's the official purse holder for today, but he's much more than that. And Lori Dickinson and Anita Nash are here to support me from the foundation. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's show our appreciation to Kristen. All right, we are also going to honor this morning our Employee of the Month, and the South Oklahoma City Kiwanis Club helps us with this presentation. You can imagine in a city of over 4,000 employees, it's difficult to select one, but we do it every month, and this month's winner is Jacob McCullough of the Utilities Department. Jacob, come on up. Let's show our appreciation to Jacob. Jacob has been with the city just a little over 3 years, so you can see how impressive he must be on his line with the utilities. And we have a resolution. I'll ask the clerk to read it.
Whereas Jacob McCullough has been a city employee for 3 years and is a mechanic in the line maintenance division of the Utilities Department. Whereas Jacob diagnoses and repairs line maintenance fleet and provides emergency services to support the Utilities Department in serving the residents of Oklahoma City. Whereas Jacob is a knowledgeable and motivated employee willing to take on any repair job. Jacob is very responsive to all customer requests and takes pride in his job, always taking initiative to resolve concerns. Whereas Jacob consistently performs his duties in an outstanding manner, showing determination and expertise beyond the scope of his work. Whereas Jacob displays a positive attitude and is regarded as an expert in fleet maintenance. Jacob is always ready to complete the next assignment and has been responsible for numerous cost-saving initiatives and employee developments. Whereas this council desires to recognize Jacob McCullough for his dedication, professionalism, and commitment to the residents of the city of Oklahoma City. Now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and council of the city of Oklahoma City that they do hereby thank and commend Jacob McCullough, November 2016 South Oklahoma City Kiwanis Club Employee of the Month.
Let's show our appreciation for Jacob. And we also have to vote on this one. See how popular you are. Is there a motion and a second? Cast your votes. It's unanimous. Congratulations, Jacob. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I didn't know I was going to have to talk, but I'm not a very good speaker, but thanks to the city council and the mayor, and I'd like to say I have some awesome bosses and coworkers. I love working with them, and I really enjoy my job. Thanks.
Fine representative for us. Thanks, Jacob. We're on item 3C of the council agenda, and we have representatives from Embark here. Jason, would you guys come up forward? You just stand up in front of the microphone. Our transportation system, our public transportation system, is a member of the national organization, as are transit systems all over the country. And we received one of the top national awards, and I asked Jason if he would come in this morning and tell us more about it. Jason?
Sure. So the American Public Transportation Association recently recognized Embark as the 2016 Outstanding North American Public Transportation System of the Year for those systems that provide less than 4 million trips annually. And so if you're not familiar with our association, the System of the Year Award is really one of the most, or the most prestigious system awards that the association grants. They recognize one small system, one medium-sized system, and then one large system each year. And what's interesting is the selection committee that actually determines who receives the award is made up of other transit industry professionals. So it really is an opportunity. We felt it was an opportunity for us to really kind of be gauged by, where we stand with some of our peers. And, as a staff, we would be the very first to say we have lots of improvement still needed to our public transportation system. We can look at our transit system analysis plan, and we know the next steps we need to take to grow our system. But even on an everyday basis, we find things that we could do better and that we can use to improve. But at the same time, we thought, we really feel like we had some successes in the recent years. When you think of our AVL technology and real-time transit data available to customers, what we did with our route realignments, the growth we saw in ridership, our night service, our rebranding. So with that, we said, let's go ahead and apply for this award, and again, just kind of see where we stack up. So we're very fortunate. It's a privilege to be able to be the recipient this year for the small systems. And, the other thing I would mention is we certainly couldn't do it without the leadership of the council, the support we received from City Council, and, of course, the leadership of the COPPA Board of Trustees. And if it's okay, I'd like to introduce a few folks that we have with us. Obviously, we'd love to bring our entire staff in here that played the part, but it's not possible. We have certainly some wonderful representatives with us this morning. I'd like to first introduce Chris Burke. Chris is one of our mechanics. He's one of our senior mechanics. And here's the thing. What people don't realize is with all the additional service we put on the streets, it means more buses out there at one time. And so it's more demand for our mechanics to keep up with putting more buses on the street at one time and for a longer period of time. Keep in mind, we have 8 buses out till midnight now. So when those buses come in, you've got about, maybe 4 or 5 hours on a good day to turn them around. So it really has created some additional demands, but our maintenance staff has done a wonderful job stepping up. Next, we have Lamar Harris. He's one of our senior operators, and Lamar and his team, the individuals he works with, done a wonderful job also in really implementing a lot of the route changes and the new services that we have. And then, of course, from the admin staff, we have Kevin Mulcahy, our assistant director, and Michael Scroggins. So, again, we just really appreciate this opportunity. We have a video we'd like to share with you. As part of the recognition process, the association asked those system winners to develop a video that could be played during the annual conference for other transit agencies to see. And I think our marketing team did a really good job of not only demonstrating kind of where Embark is and where we're going, but really capturing the essence of what we're doing in terms of transforming our city. So with that, we'll just turn it over and play the video. Thank you.
Oklahoma City is going places, and Embark is helping it get there. A growing city needs a reliable and efficient transit system, and in OKC, we're all on the same route. Oklahoma City's landscape is changing, and with thoughtful, transit-centric planning at the forefront, it is primed to become one of the most vibrant metros in North America. So while Oklahoma City has improved its quality of life, Embark has improved its quality of service. Embark upgraded more than 2,000 bus stops with highly visible signage, realigned its system to improve frequency to 30 minutes on most routes, and created high-frequency corridors, all without additional funding. Since then, Embark has also extended service until midnight on 4 popular routes. Embark provides ADA paratransit service well beyond its required 170 square mile service area to ensure transit options are available to all of Oklahoma City's 620 square miles, an area larger than the city of Los Angeles. We're already a multimodal transit system with the Spokies Bike Share program and Oklahoma River Cruises. But we're getting even better in 2018 with the arrival of a locally funded $131 million streetcar system. As we set our sights on the future, Oklahoma City and Embark are moving forward together. Where public transit goes, community grows.
Very nice. Thank you, Jason.
Your Honor, if I may, I had the opportunity to go out there for the presentation, and it's hard to appreciate how important this presentation is until you've been out there. Truly, it's like receiving the Academy Award within this industry. The congratulations and appreciation that we received from all of the members at the convention was really very impressive. And so this achievement really captured the entire country's attention from a mass transit standpoint on Oklahoma City. And that video, if you're not careful, it gets by you. There's a little subtle statement that talks about our streetcar. It's locally funded. Many of these transit programs have a lot of federal funds coming in to assist with that process. Ours is totally locally funded. So it just goes to show we've accomplished a lot, and as Jason said, we still have a long ways to go, but it's great to receive this type of recognition. Thank you.
If I could also congratulate the board, Jason, on the vote to allow high school seniors and juniors to ride the buses for free. Something Councilman White's been working on for a long time and others, and it was great news to see that happening.
All right. Congratulations again. All right, we're on item 3D and E of the council agenda, a couple of appointments. I'll look for a motion. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 4 is the Journal of Council Proceedings. 4A is to receive the journal for October 25th, and 4B is to approve the journal for October 11th. All right, comments or questions on the journal? Cast your votes. All right, item 5 is request for uncontested continuances.
Mayor, a few this morning. Starting on page 21, item 9B, Councilman Pettis, along with the applicant represented by Mr. Kuhn and the protesters represented by Mr. Grove, have requested that be continued for 2 weeks until November 22nd. I know we're all looking forward to the presentation by Mr. Groves this morning, but we'll have to wait 2 more weeks to get to that. Moving on to page 22, under item 9G1, item A, 117 South Allen, we ask that that be stricken. It's now occupied. Item E, 1118 North Purdue, we ask that that be stricken. The owner secured. Item H, 4500 North Virginia, we ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item J, 1326 Northwest 6th Street, we ask that that be stricken. The owner secured. Item K, 1700 Northwest 10th Street, we ask that that be stricken. The owner secured. Item R, 1410 Northeast 24th Street, we ask that that be stricken. The owner secured. Item S, 2023 Northwest 25th Street, we ask that that be stricken. The owner secured. And item V, 1428 Northwest 32nd Street, we ask that that be stricken. Owner secured. Moving to page 23, item X, 2141 Southwest 63rd Street, we ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. Moving to item 9H1A, 117 South Allen, we ask that that be stricken. It's now occupied. Item E, 1118 North Purdue, we ask that that be stricken. Owner secured. Item H, 4500 North Virginia, we ask that that be stricken. Owner secured. Item J, 1326 Northwest 6th Street, we ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item K, 1700 Northwest 10th Street, we ask that that be stricken. The owner has secured. And finally, item Q, 1428 Northwest 32nd Street, we ask that that be stricken. Again, the owner has secured.
Are there any other requests for uncontested continuances? All right, item 6 is revocable permits, and our first is an event that is hoping to be able to hold the 24 the Hard Way. This will be at Bluff Creek Park in Ward 8. Is there anyone here representing this event? They're probably taking a nap. This is the 24 the Hard Way, is Jim was suggesting to me yesterday, is like 24 hours straight. You're doing something, right? Running or biking or something.
But not sleeping?
But not sleeping, yeah. There won't be a long line of council members, I think, getting involved in this event. October 21st to the 23rd, and it's in Ward 8. Mark, you want to make the motion for that?
I'll move the item, please.
All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously, and I make light of it, but I'm glad others are doing this. But just an amazing endurance by description. All right, item 6B is a request to hold a Bricktown Parklet near the Painted Door on East Sheridan. And Jill Delosier is here. Hey, good morning, Jill.
Good morning.
You
Jill
want to tell us,
Delosier.
for those that don't know what a parklet is, when you want to describe it?
Sure. As some of you may know, a parklet is a miniature urban park that is set up in a parking space. And we are here requesting permission to do so at a parallel parking space at 124 East Sheridan. About a year ago, the council approved some guidelines to allow this type of activity in the downtown area and beyond. And so we've been working with Drew in the Special Events Permitting Office to make sure that we were abiding by all of the guidelines and getting this set up. So I think you guys have some renderings in front of you, what we're proposing for the parklet, and we would like to start setting up November 14th and request a 90-day permit that is renewable.
All right, and this is in Ward 7. John?
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to recognize Molly and Chad from the Bricktown area, and they are here in support of it. So with that said, I move for approval.
All right. Cast your votes on item 6B, and it passes unanimously. Thanks, Jill.
Thank you.
Item 6C is a request from Downtown OKC, Inc. to hold the Bricktown Tree Lighting Festival. This will start November 25th. And
Good morning.
good morning.
Hi. I'm Mallory O'Neill with DOKC. Yes.
Malkery.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for helping me with the pronunciation.
Yeah.
Tell us about your tree lighting
Yeah,
ceremony.
we're back for the 15th year for the annual Tree Lighting Festival in Bricktown. It serves as a kickoff for downtown in December. It will be held on November 25th from 5 to 7 p.m., and we are here today to request the closure of Mickey Mantle Drive between Wanda Jackson Way and Flaming Lips Alley, starting at noon until 9 p.m. that evening. We have a stage, various activities. Mayor Cornett's there to help us count down to lighting of the tree. So the event is free and open to the public, so we're just here to get approval to close the street.
Yeah, it's the day after Thanksgiving,
It is,
Friday.
yes.
And tell us again the times.
5 to 7 p.m. is the event.
5 to 7 p.m.
And
it's
then
usually,
we'd like to-
usually a pretty good crowd. Kind of depends on the weather.
Exactly, yeah.
But a lot of kids, and Santa Claus generally shows up.
Santa Claus is
And
there, yes.
it's obviously extremely popular, if you can imagine.
Very true.
Thank you for putting on this event. It's always one of the highlights of the holiday
Of course,
season.
we're happy to.
And invite everyone to come out. But we'll need a motion to make it legal. Is there a motion? Cast your votes on 6C. It passes unanimously.
Awesome. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Margaret. All right, we'll recess the council meeting, convene as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority. There are 4 items. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions on the MFA? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. We'll adjourn the OCMFA, convene as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority. And let me note here that we will need executive session on item D. So how about a motion, first of all, to move item D to executive session? All right, so let's vote on that. And so that item moves to executive session. Now let's vote on the rest of the PPA. Is there a motion on the remainder of the agenda? All right, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. And so we're not going to adjourn the PPA. We'll recess the PPA and come back and finish that after executive session. All right, we'll convene as the Oklahoma City Environmental Assistance Trust, just the claims and payroll today. All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. We adjourn the OCEAT and reconvene the council meeting with the consent docket. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any individual considerations?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, 7AW.
All right.
And Mayor, I had 7L and 7AC.
And just a quick question about AL2.
All right, John, you want to get us going?
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 7, AW, and I think Chief may be coming in, but I do want to thank our police department as well as the Attorney General The police department applied for a grant through the AG's office, and the grant is the amount of $731,000. Yeah, over $731,000, and this grant is geared towards Northeast Oklahoma City. And I'm going to ask Chief if he would to explain item 7AW.
Yeah, Councilman, the grant's actually through the Oklahoma Safe Grant. This is the second grant that we've applied for with them. You also have one on the docket that's for about $230,000 or $50,000. It's an ongoing grant. That one's an ongoing grant, which is off of 10th Street in the northwest part of Oklahoma City out of Southwest Division. This grant is actually going to be targeting some high-crime, violent areas in northeast Oklahoma City. We've identified those areas when we submitted the grant. The difference in this grant is we're going to do a lot of things like getting out of the car, knocking on doors. We're going to use a lot of it for overtime to get officers out and do some really non-traditional policing in those neighborhoods to really try to engage with the community, try to find out what their concerns are, and try to do some different police activities there. Another component of that is also working with the municipal courts and trying to identify some of our at-risk youth that's actually in our municipal court system, so our officers can actually work as mentors, in some ways counselors, with those youth and try to engage them on a more one-on-one basis and give them some guidance.
All right, and I just want to again thank you, Chief, and thank you to Major Martin from the Spring Lake Division and the other staff that you have for working on this grant. Also, again, I want to thank the Attorney General for the state of Oklahoma for supporting this effort for Northeast Oklahoma City. Again, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, and Meg, you wanted to discuss L?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to recognize the Central Oklahoma Humane Society for partnering with us again. We've been working for a number of years, Bob's great staff, to increase the live release rate out of our shelters, and we've done that with our staff, but with partnerships in the community, and the Central Oklahoma Humane Society's been right along beside us, and I just wanted to recognize our continuing agreement with them. And item AL, we've got Mickey Clegg and Brian Fitzsimmons in the audience here today, who I wanted to thank for their work on Red Andrews Park. This is another incredible example of public-private work together. Started out as a fairly small 2007 bond issue project, and the community got together and had some much grander and probably better plans for the community. We're doing renovations of the building itself, reworking the parking lot and all of the grounds, making the park much more accessible to this neighborhood that's growing so much, called SoSo, or the Cottage District, whatever we call it. And so it's a combination of bond money, this TIF allocation, private dollars that have been allocated, and we needed a little bit more. I keep trying. I'm continuing to look to see if there's a little bit more available, but we thank you so much. Brian, your design is excellent, and there's been a lot of community input into the project, and so I'm very pleased to see this coming together.
All right, and Ed, you said you had a question on AL2?
Yeah, I just wanted to this is $1 million of TIF 2 for the Santa Fe garage. I'm just trying to understand, this is TIF 2 as opposed to COPTA because it's for UCO?
The money will be allocated to COTPA to make improvements at the Santa Fe garage so that UCO can lease the space.
So it's exclusively for UCO, so it's to help UCO's...
It's helped to complete tenant improvements and finish out of the space. It's in pretty rough shape right now so that it can be leased to UCO. And I guess if sometime in the future UCO chooses not to be there anymore, then somebody else could lease the space. But it's really to help COTPA fund those tenant improvements.
Okay, thanks.
And I do want to recognize we do have UCO who is present today.
All right. I also want to recognize Jim Tolbert's here. Jim, you want to come up and explain your role going forward with the MAPS 3 park? Jim, as many know, has been instrumental through the years with the Myriad Botanical Gardens, and his organization has agreed to get into a contract with the City of Oklahoma City for the operations of the MAPS 3 Park going forward, and today is when the council will be signing off on that agreement.
Yes, we have created a new foundation for the MAPS 3 Park. For the moment, it's called the MAPS 3 Park Foundation, for lack of imagination. In time, it will have a suitable name, and we'll have a suitable public process to make that happen. But for the present, that's what it's called, and that organization is entering into a lease and management agreement with the city that is very, very similar to the existing agreement with the Marriott Gardens. We will also have a new 501c3 that will house the top management of the Marriott Gardens and the MAPS Trust, and the MAPS Foundation, who can oversee the management and operation of both facilities. And I think from that we can learn a lot from our experience in the gardens and perhaps be able to launch this park with the greatest possible success.
Yeah. Well, I know we're appreciative of your willingness to take on this role.
Thank you.
It's a large assignment, and we're thankful. Jim, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions on the consent docket? All right. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. That moves us on to item 8, which is the concurrence docket. Is there a motion here? All right. Are there any individual considerations on the concurrence? All right. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9 includes a list of items that require a separate vote. We'll start with a series of zoning cases. The first is 9A1. The address is 4101 North Bush Boulevard. It's currently O1 Limited Office, and it would become an R1 single-family residential district, and it's in Ward 2, Ed.
If nobody signed up to speak, I would move for approval.
Second. All right. Any comments or questions on this item? All right. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9A2 is a zoning case in Ward 3 at 2225 South Sarah Road. It's currently AA agricultural, and it would become R1 single-family residential. And Larry, we do have one person that has signed up to speak.
Yes, I see the applicant present. If the applicant would come forward. And what I'd like to do is give a historical perspective, have the applicant give a historical perspective of how we got to where we are today. And then I'd like the neighbor to come up and speak after that.
Okay. Good morning. David Box, 522 Colcord Drive, here on behalf of the applicant. Mr. Luke Roundtree, on behalf of the developer, is here, as well as Tim Johnson, who's the civil engineer for the project. This piece of dirt, the history started about a year or so ago, in which a previous developer had come in and the site was squared off. It didn't have the little piece on the south that dips down, and it was a gridded neighborhood, and the neighbors were very upset. If you look at the staff report, it reflects 116 protest signatures. That was a result of the previous development proposal. What happened was my client came in, was able to acquire this piece to the south that enabled a design of a neighborhood that was more in keeping with what the Planning Commission and the city desires. That is, curved streets, not gridded out, and allowed for better connectivity with the addition of a centrally located common area. We did then go and work with the neighbors, understanding that their concerns were addressed the first time. We wanted to see if we were able to perhaps move this further along to where they could be supportive. We are on Sarah Road, just north of Southwest 29th Street. This yellow line you see here is the proposed limits of the new turnpike. So in our opinion, this piece of dirt was going to be developed either in residential or perhaps commercial once the turnpike is in. It was our opinion, and I believe the neighbors agreed, that the best use of this land is for R1 single-family compatible with what you see to the north in the neighborhood. So then we sat down and tried to find a way to get past the traffic issue, understanding that there is already a traffic problem on Sarah Road, specifically at the intersection of Southwest 29th. What my client has agreed to do now is participate financially in a solution at Southwest 29th and Sarah. There is I think a long-term project that would be contingent upon the bond being passed that would widen Sarah. What my client is willing to do is participate in a project that would widen temporarily 29th and Sarah to provide protected turn lanes, both north and southbound, as well as the installation of traffic signals. The traffic signals can be designed in such a way that the poles are set out wide so that when the intersection is fully widened pursuant to the bond project, we don't have to waste those signals. They will already be there. I believe that goes a long way into satisfying some of the concerns that the neighbors had. I do think that they were comfortable with the product that my client proposes, and we did build a nice working relationship with them. We'll have to continue to work with them as we go and plat this piece of property. But this is a zoning case right now. It was recommended approval by the Planning Commission and is in conformance with the comprehensive plan.
David, I noticed how close it was to ODOT's alignment.
Yes, sir.
Or is it the Turnpike Authority, or is it both?
Turnpike.
Okay. Are they okay with this development being built so close to the Turnpike? Have they signed off on the route?
They have not, but they don't have to. It's outside the limits of their potential right-of-way. It is important to note that they have not begun acquiring any right-of-way. It's my understanding that they are only 50% done with the design of the Turnpike. There's been no contact made that I'm aware of with my client. We did design this in such a way, based upon the most recent designs that the Turnpike Authority has produced, to be outside of the limits of their right-of-way. If you think of the Turnpike as it goes north from I-40, there are neighborhoods on either side of it. We anticipate no issues long-term and took great strides to design it in such a way as to stay out of their proposed limits.
Okay. Larry?
Yes, if the neighbor would come, Ms. Compton, come forward. Ms. Compton comes from the neighborhood to the north of this. Would you show the neighborhood that
I'll make a better easel sometimes.
the developed neighborhood to the north is a neighborhood that she represents. She's been very active in pointing out a very serious traffic problem that we have in the area. The traffic problem seems to have as its epicenter two locations: the school on on South Sarah Road between 29th and 44th, which backs up traffic during school, beginning and ending each day, and then also the intersection at Southwest 29th and Sarah Road, which David was talking about, which his applicant has agreed to participate in the funding to position ourselves to get that signalized and to get some turn lanes in to relieve the problem. That being said, also on Sarah Road, there is discussions that have gone on, and Jim might want to speak to that, discussions going on with this DOT, the Turnpike people, and also with Mustang to widen Sarah Road from Southwest 29th to Southwest 59th, with the city participating in half of that with the Turnpike Authority or DOT. Which one, Jim?
I'm not sure. I think it was ODOT.
I thought it was ODOT also. And then Mustang would widen it from Southwest 59th through Mustang. In the DOT would pick up half of the cost of that, and the city would pick up the other cost. Of course, that's all predicated on the passage of the 2017 bond program, with this area being one of the top projects, because Ms. Compton showed a video at the Planning Commission meeting highlighting the very serious nature of traffic in that area, especially during rush hour and during school hours. So that being said, Ms. Compton, thank you for your efforts and your citizens' efforts in your neighborhood, and the podium is yours, ma'am.
Okay. Am I allowed to show that video here? Would you all be interested in seeing that? It's about a 2-minute video. Cindy? I thought you loaded it. Okay, she didn't load it. I thought it was loaded. It's a 2-minute video. At 5:30 in the afternoon on a Tuesday afternoon, traffic is backed up from 29th all the way to 15th. People have to stop to let me into my neighborhood. I'm glad to hear that all this is being planned. It's been a nightmare with all the growth in our area. If anybody's been out there lately, you can see houses are everywhere. And we were fighting that behind us. The first developer, his design was lackluster, if there's anything else to call it. This is much better, and we are working with this developer and the engineer to get along and get this thing done. Our one contention is, and there's nothing that can be done about it, is their ingress-egress onto Sarah. There's only room for one. So they're going to stub into the back of my neighborhood and come through my neighborhood for their second ingress egress. And we have a half-mile straight shot on 21st Street that is a racetrack now. So, but they're going to help us try to get some stop signs in there to slow that down. But it's growth, and it's going to be crazy out there because Sarah being widened, and if that happens, and the turnpike coming behind us and around us, it's just going to be nuts. So we'll do our best to get along with everybody. So I appreciate your effort and these gentlemen to figure out a solution to our problem out there on Sarah.
This is right across the street from the Westbury Golf Course, too, right?
It is, and that's been platted for more homes. So it's just all, it's just a little bit crazy out there. So many homes, and that little old road that was a country road at one time is taking everybody from Tuttle and Bridge Creek and Mustang to go to work. It's interesting to watch that happen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your efforts. Any other questions from...
Yeah, well, I'm still concerned about the turnpike.
Well, there is specific case law on point that deals with this. Until the Turnpike or ODOT or the city, any condemning authority, makes some sort of effort to acquire it, the developer and the owner of the property is permitted to do everything they can to make use of their property. I think, frankly, the developer should be applauded for designing this around what OTA has said they plan on doing. They have the legal right to show houses there, but their interest is in developing this neighborhood, not trying to win a big, condemnation suit. So we think we've frankly gone above and beyond. If they do decide to come right here, we've designed it in a manner that they can go in there and not disrupt our neighborhood.
So is that their alignment or your alignment?
This is what the OTA has put out on their website.
Okay.
If there are no further questions, I'd like to compliment the neighbors. Thank you for your efforts. As David said, the original introduction of this area had a multitude of very valid protests. Through a series of meetings and creativity and the willingness to cooperate, we've got everybody on the same boat right now going. And so with that being said, thank you all, and I move for approval.
Second. All right, cast your votes. Passed unanimously. All right, item 9A3 is a zoning case in Ward 3 at 703 North Meridian Avenue. It's currently R1 single family, and this would change the zoning to I2 moderate industrial. Larry?
Is the applicant present, if he come forward? And if you would, sir, give the council just a brief overview of what you're talking about.
Sure. Good morning, Jason Spencer with Craft and Toll here on behalf of the applicant. Well, we've got a 1.4 acre parcel along North Meridian. It's currently zoned R1 and vacant. Trying to bring this into compliance with the surrounding zoning. You've got I2 zoning on the north, I1 zoning on the north, I2 zoning on the south, Meridian Avenue on the east, and I2 zoning on the west. The comp plan calls for heavy industrial. We seek to rezone this portion in order to expand parking facility for the industrial use that's presently to the south of the site. Planning Commission recommended approval unanimously and ask for your approval today.
As he said, the Planning Commission approved it unanimously. There's been no protest from any of the neighbors around. Unless the council has some questions, I move for approval.
Second. All right, cast your votes. It passed unanimously. Thank you. Thanks. Item 9A4 is a zoning case in Ward 2 at 2911 Northwest 29th Street. It's currently R1 single-family residential, and it would be an O2 general office district if approved. Ed?
If nobody signed up to speak, I'd move for approval.
Second. All right, cast your votes. And it passed unanimously. Item 9A5 is a zoning case in Ward 5 at 10524 South Broadway. It's currently AA agricultural and see-through community commercial, and it would be put into a new SPUD if approved. David?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Your Honor. This is a request for expansion of a veterinary clinic, and there were no protests at the Planning Commission. Is there anyone signed up to speak? Okay. And it was approved unanimously by the Planning Commission. I recommend approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We're voting on item 9A5. Cast your votes. It passed unanimously. Item 9B has been deferred until November 22nd. Item 9C is an ordinance that's up for final hearing today. This is to close a sewer easement in Ward 7. John, you okay with this?
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Clerk, anyone signed up? The Planning Commission did approve. I move for approval.
All right, we're voting on item 9C. Cast your votes. It passed unanimously. Item 9D is an ordinance that's being introduced today, and I don't know if we may need the emergency on that. Is that requested? Okay. This would actually fix a discrepancy in the documents that would make the milk bottle at 24th and Classen into the historic designation. But this is a necessary changing of the wording of the documents.
Yes, it's a correction. We cited the wrong section of the code when we brought it through the first time. The replacement case was actually introduced earlier, so it'll be back here in December.
Yeah, I thought we'd already voted on this once. Okay. So how about a motion then to move this forward again?
Move for approval.
Cast your votes. It passed unanimously. And Bob, do you want to justify the emergency?
This property is a significant historic landmark, and the quicker we can get it designated as a historic landmark, the better to protect that property.
Yeah. Cast your votes. It passed unanimously. Item 9E is an ordinance that's going to be introduced today. Bob Tiener is here to discuss it. It's basically allowing for larger enforcement of our smoke detectors and requiring them in areas that previously they've not been legally required. Is that right, Bob?
Yes, the current ordinance requires smoke detectors on any new structure, occupied new structure. Anytime an existing structure has an amendment that or an addition that requires a permit, they're required to put in smoke detectors. And then all other existing occupied structures like duplexes, attached single-family apartments, they're required to have smoke detectors, but for some reason there was an exemption for attached single-family houses. And so the ordinance here will eliminate that exemption. And really the intent here is to, Councilman White asked for this, the intent is to raise awareness on how important it is to have the smoke detectors and really the cost. The fire department has a program where they'll provide smoke alarms. I think they do about 3,000 a year. So this is to correct that exemption.
Why don't we hear from Chief Bryant on why it's important?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Every year when I do my budget presentation, one of our major objectives is to reduce and prevent fire fatalities here in the city. And as I report to you every year, that we see that when we do have a fire fatality, almost 100% of the time, it was in a residential structure, and there was a lack of a working smoke alarm that was not present or was not operable, and meaning that it didn't have a battery and it hadn't been maintained. So, as Bob was saying, the ordinance was already in place requiring smoke detectors. Single-family homes were exempted from that ordinance, and this just removes that exemption. It is our goal, and again, it's one thing to recommend that everybody have a working smoke alarm. Now we can say that they're required, and although we don't intend to take that strong of a position on that in terms of, but it gives us a little bit more weight to our argument and to our push and to our recommendation that when our firefighters are in people's homes, say for a first aid call or something of that nature, and they notice that there's not a working smoke alarm, now we can tell them, we have some, we'll be glad to install them, and you have to have it. So that's the whole goal, is to make sure that we drive that point home even further. And again, our public education work section, along with just the firefighters out at the stations, are doing a good job of getting that message out there and making sure that when somebody doesn't, that we provide it for them right away. And I think this will go a long way in helping that initiative.
All right. And Pete, you asked for this resolution. All right. Item's going to be introduced today. Public hearing is set for November 22nd, and the final hearing will be December 6. Is there a motion to officially have it introduced today? Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. All right, item 9F is a public hearing regarding dilapidated structures. Is there anyone here hoping to speak under any item listed under 9F? All right, how about a motion? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9G is a public hearing regarding unsecured structures. Is there anyone here hoping to speak under any item listed under 9G? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9H is a public hearing regarding abandoned buildings. Is there anyone here hoping to speak under any item listed under 9H? All right, is there a motion? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9I is a public hearing regarding removal of properties from the abandoned buildings list. Is there anyone here hoping to speak on either of those properties? All right. Cast your votes. 9I passes unanimously. Item 9J is an operating agreement with SMG over the Convention Center.
Mayor, this item is a companion item that was on for the PPA, and this will be for the operations of the new convention center. It's really kind of a hallmark day for us, or week for us, because today we also earlier had the operating agreement for the MAPS 3 Park on, and then last Friday, COPTA entered into an agreement to begin negotiations with Hartzog and Associates for the operation of the modern streetcar. So we're moving into some operation stages, and of course, with the modern streetcar coming in, the bids coming in very well for us on last week. So a lot of progress being made on a lot of different fronts.
All right. Is there a motion on 9J? Cast your votes. It passed unanimously. Item 9K is a proposed fix on our problem we've been experiencing with retiree health care, and we have a couple of people that have signed up to speak. Mark Nelson? Morning, Mark.
Mark Nelson, FOP at 1624 South Agnew Council. Probably should have waited till L, that way maybe I could say thank you after you voted on it, but in at least recognizing your consideration of what the retirees came and voiced about 4 weeks ago, I thought it was appropriate, and we think it's appropriate that to at least address you. I know that several of our members, you probably heard the pain and the disgust and even some of them the anger that they were experiencing through this, and that council didn't have to act, that this information was given to you kind of at a late hour, just as it was our retirees. Pardon me, but the willingness to look at what could be done in a tough year and a tough time for our retirees, I think it's important that we recognize, as it's not any mystery that the FOP is not shy about being vocal when we have a disagreement. I think it's just as appropriate to be express our gratefulness and our gratitude when you all do hear the concerns and are able to act. So obviously we are in favor of this. I'll jump a little bit forward to item L in mentioning that, being thankful for your postponing it. That allowed us, myself and President George and another one of our senior board members, Jeff Pierce, to meet with Mrs. Berry and Mr. Fonda last week and gain some very valuable information. Though the items aren't necessarily related, they kind of are, and so have been great to work with, both of them. Mr. Fonda came to one of the meetings, threw himself into the lion's den to address some issues, so comments about it being punitive or personal, I can't speak for any one individual. Everybody has certainly the right to voice their opinion, but the FOP collectively, and I've had many conversations with many of our retired members who, after learning the information that council's voting on today, are grateful and thankful, and so not just for the year relief next year, but we as the FOP and then our retirees certainly involved as well are looking forward to trying to find a longer-term solution than just next year. So obviously we would appreciate your considering item K and voting to approve it. Thank you very much, Mayor.
All right. Thanks, Mark. David Shoup.
Morning, Mayor and Council. My name's David Shoup. I live at 12721 Southeast 149th Street. I'm a retired police officer and recently a retired city employee. I'm simply here to thank you for the work that you've done in this issue as a retiree and as a retired police officer. I only speak for myself, but I'm pretty confident that there's a sigh of relief for many of the retirees, and you didn't have to do this. And I want you to know I appreciate your efforts in this and appreciate city staff. The other thing I wanted to say is I just want to sing the praises of the city clinic. It's a wonderful resource. I hope the word gets out. I sent Ms. Berry a message shortly after it opened at the permission of one of my employees. He'd never had a blood test for prostate cancer. And during the screening, it was found that he had prostate cancer in advanced stages. So I attribute the city clinic of possibly saving this man's life. So I applaud the council for the clinic and again for your efforts, as well as the FOP's efforts in trying to bring this healthcare crisis to resolution. Thank you.
All right, David, thanks.
David, your wife did a great job for you last time.
Well, thank you. She was pretty stressed out. She actually hit a deer at 240 and Anderson Road,
right.
And our car was inoperable, so our dear friend Randy Scott came out and picked her up. So she's a real trooper. So thank you for recognizing that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, item K is the fix to the problem.
Yeah. If I can summarize just a couple of issues that we have going on here. The resolution, item K, is a one-year temporary fix on one of the plans for the retiree health insurance of the under 65 group. And we are looking to do some things in the future to come up with a more permanent, although it's challenging as we go forward. Somewhat related is I think Mr. George said, but not totally related, is item L, which is the future elimination of retiree health benefits for employees hired after January 1 of 17. And there's also a couple of modifications for eligibilities for existing employees.
The subsidy only.
Yes, the subsidy only, yes. The insurance is still going to be available. Thank you so much, Councilman. You're exactly correct. That's why Diana Berry should be up here instead of me. And the third item is there's a city manager report, because there were a couple of other issues that came up with retirees 4 weeks ago that came up, and eligibility for retiree health insurance, whether they should be active and such. And so we're not done with that. That's a really complicated issue. And so we are continuing to look at that, and we'll hopefully have some recommendations and remedies on that, but we don't have those available for today. So those are kind of the issues that are out there.
Okay, and the council will be voting here on 9K and 9L. They are somewhat related.
Can I ask a question about K? So the decreased subsidy is only for the alternate plan, not the standard plan?
That's correct.
Can you just remind me one more time what the alternate plan versus the standard plan is?
Yes, Councilman, the alternate plan has a higher deductible, has a $750 deductible versus a $250 deductible. And the office co-pays are a little bit higher on the alternate plan. But the premiums are significantly lower than on the standard plan. And that's on item K, not on item L.
Okay, so it only applies if they do the alternate plan?
Yes. And anybody who's enrolled in the HMO plan or the standard plan will have the option of switching to the alternate plan.
Your Honor, I just wanted to thank Mr. Couch, Ms. Berry, Mr. Bonda for their work on this very, very difficult issue. I'm dealing with people that I represent, people that I work with that are looking at these staggering increases, and they are throwing up their arms, and they don't know what to do, and it is just devastating. And so I commend the three of you and your staffs for coming up with something that will help us in the interim, and I look forward to creative solutions in the future.
I'd echo Mark's comments about that, but this is, we all know, this is a short-term solution. One of the things that I would hope that have come from all the controversy and all the conflict, in effect, that came about from this, we're going to sit down now and start talking about ways to do it. I appreciate so much, David, your comments about the clinic, because I think that's an avenue that is so underutilized. I'm utilizing it, and I go there and ask them questions, and they say, well, hardly anybody's using it. You know, it's just not being used to the extent it could be, and it has the potential for being a huge, huge savings on our health care costs. But, you know, I wish that we were in a situation where we controlled them. You know, we talk about this being a bad year. It would be a bad year for health care costs if we were having a good year, because it's going out, the health care costs are going through the roof. And we have got, as together as employers and employees, have got to come together to find a better way to handle this crisis way of doing it that we did it this time. I think everybody's to be commended for getting together and working on it, but we've got to do something to avoid that. So next year when this item comes up, everybody already knows what's going to happen. And I know we can't, certain things we don't know until the very end. I mean, we don't know what the bids are going to come back at. But I think the unions could better prepare their members for how terrible the situation is and how little control the union has over it and how little control we have over it. That's it.
I would like to just echo those comments and reiterate that it's certainly not unique to retirees. I mean, in my medical practice, it's every day, all day long. Just everybody is getting slammed with even higher increases. I mean, I don't have any patients that have anything like $250 or $750 deductibles. I mean, it's $2,500 per family member. I mean, it's $5,000 a year. It is a little, it's unrealistic, or it's, I mean, we are offering something that is much better than anything you could get through the Affordable Care Act or on the open market, not just in terms of deductibles and premiums, but in what we cover. I mean, we cover long-term inpatient treatment for addiction, which so few insurance companies do that. A lot of the things that we offer patients are not allowed under the Affordable Care Act for no reason. So it's not just that we have lower premiums and deductibles, it's that we pay for a lot of services that other insurance companies on the open market don't. That being said, it is unsustainable, I feel. I mean, these kind of at the last minute increases, and so whoever wins the presidential election today, I think changes are coming. Maybe that's decreasing the Medicare eligibility from 65 to 60 or 55, and that may change these discussions greatly in the months ahead.
All right, ready to move on? We have item 9K. This is the temporary fix. Is there a motion? Cast your vote. It passes unanimously. And then item 9L is the policy that will affect hirees that are coming in after January 1st. And George, you want to speak on this?
Wondering what that crazy old man's going to say next, but I've spent my entire life in public service. I've never left anywhere that I didn't leave it better than when I got there. I feel like this resolution is backwards, and you know what? The problem was brought to you all a couple of weeks ago about the cost of the insurance. And what'd you do? So let's work on it and let's get something done. And staff said, yeah, well, we're trying to do some things, and you got something done. I think that if we look at this resolution a little bit better and outline some things and say, I'm not saying we don't need to do some things. I know that there's problems. Every one of us, our households, we know we're making changes every day because things have gone up, or we're driving a car that gets 30 miles to the gallon, but we really want to drive the one that gets 15. So we make those changes. I just think that if there's a representative of every field on this council, and I believe that if you took a good look at it, that you would come up with a better resolution than we've got here. I just think it's just something we can do. And Councilman Greenwald, if I was a little hard last time, I apologize. I cherish your friendship, and I wouldn't want to ruin that in any way. But I'm Italian, and sometimes things come up that I shouldn't do. And I had my hands in my pockets, so I had to come out of my mouth instead of waving my hands around. But I thank you very much. I thank you for what you do. I just wish that we would take a good, hard look at this thing and see what we can come up with. We've already proven that we could come up with something better. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, George. All right, we're voting on item 9L. Is there a motion?
Can I ask a question on this? I understand the eliminating the eligibility for new employees. For increasing the eligibility requirements, that's who? Everybody, all current employees?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It's a pretty draconian move. I mean, I think to say it's any less than that would be a mistake. I think it really is. And I would hope that maybe we'd try to look at it again. It's a huge shift from what we've done in the past. It may be exactly what we have to do, but it is a huge shift. I mean, one of the things that municipal jobs have always carried with them is security on into retirement. And to start to erode that in the way that we've done here is a pretty serious step in that regard. And I would hope that we would look at it because I think over time it could erode the quality of people that we get to work for us. I think it could affect the retirement dates for people sometimes that need to retire but can't afford to because they can't afford to retire because they lose their health insurance.
Yeah.
So I think there are some unexpected consequences of it that we're going to have to take a look at. And we've got 2 months before the end of the year before we put it in. It wouldn't hurt to be doing something in that regard. At least we need to say those out front. We need to say those things. We understand that this may create a situation where firefighters and police especially stay on longer than maybe they would otherwise because of the inability to get health insurance. That we may not attract I'm repeating myself, but I do think we ought to say it. We ought to own that. And if that's what the result is, well, then we owned it and we understood that was getting ready to happen. But it just is such a draconian way to do it. I find it hard just to cut the baby in half right here and just go on down the road like that's not, like it's not going to have some other impacts, because it is going to have some serious ones.
Larry?
Mr. Mayor, my mind is a little convoluted on this. I see two issues here. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, and somebody would speak to that from personnel. I'd appreciate it, or clarify my thinking. But I see the move to say that we are not going to offer any more paid insurance for people who are hired after January 1 as one issue. And I see that as an issue that we should go on record as saying, personally, as I stand here right now. Then I see the other issue of changing when you can start for existing employees as another issue, and I'm wondering, in my mind, it would be more clear if we separated those two into issue A and issue B and addressed each one separately. That's just my personal perspective. Thank you, Your Honor.
I guess the only thing I would say is that in looking at the staff reports, after I saw that the staff estimates that our insurance costs are going to increase over 50% in the next 10 years. And the fact that we have a liability potential out there of over $91 million, all of this will affect our general fund. All of this will affect us providing basic services to our citizens. I agree with Larry's comments. This is most difficult. But in the end, I think we have to recognize that there could be a potential for an increase of over 50% in health costs in the next 10 years.
So am I understanding, for next year, we've budgeted 15.8 or 16 million for retiree health insurance for roughly 420 people?
Colin, is that right? The 16 million is right. I'm not sure how many people are in the group.
It's approximately almost 2,000 people. Those are retirees 65 and older and retirees under 65, and your 380 numbers for the under 65 folks on our indemnity plan. So we've got a couple hundred more of those under 65 on our HMO plan. So our total lives is closer to 2,000
So
retirees.
it's all non-Medicare eligible?
Well, that's all. Well, all our retirees are close to 2,000,
Medicare.
Medicare and non-Medicare eligible.
I see. And that comes up to the 15.
That's the $15.8 million subsidy that we provide towards retiree post-employment benefit insurance.
I guess my only hesitation is I agree with exactly what you're saying. It's unsustainable. It's just that I think we could have seen this coming maybe and had a public discussion with all the parties over a year period. The 10 years hasn't. I agree with Larry about separating the two, and I think maybe we could have worked it out over a longer period of time, and also waiting to see what happens with the new administration, I think could impact this.
Mm-hmm. I think what Jim has said is that, this is taking care of the immediate short-term issue with, with people we care a great deal about, and it could be tweaked going forward, right? At least I understand you're talking more about one of the ideas than the other, but I think it seems to me like the federal government is going to have to do something.
Yeah.
And I don't pretend to predict what that is, but if we're going to offer, basically the top best medical care in the world, it's going to be expensive. It just kind of depends on, what's the appropriate level of medical care a person should expect. That's going to be government subsidized.
If things change in 2 years, we can certainly come back and visit this resolution again if we do have change of conditions and need to take a look at it. And again, this does not affect, well, it doesn't, the coverage will not affect any existing employees with the exception of the eligibility requirements for a few folks.
I really do look at the eligibility requirement a lot like a deductible in insurance. I don't know anybody in the private sector, any company at all, that would allow you to vest or allow you this opportunity after just 5 years of service and reaching age 55. And that is an extraordinarily generous vesting schedule, if you will. It's not quite that, but that's kind of the way I see it in my mind. I think I'm on record along with Ed about the low deductibles. I don't know any company that still offers a $250 deductible. It's extraordinarily generous, and it's a wonderful benefit, but it does come at a price, as does this. I'm in support of both of these, even though I wouldn't use the word draconian, but it is. I don't think anybody sitting here is anxious to be doing this, but I guess perhaps I'm channeling our former colleague, Pat Ryan. We have been looking at this issue for, I think, at least 2 years in conversations about how we manage this unfunded liability and what steps we could take, and just increasing the years for eligibility is a fairly simple one to me versus, just simply not allowing a subsidy any longer. But as long as we continue to provide access to health insurance, I think that's what we offer as a municipality. We may not be able to pay for it, but we continue to offer access.
Mayor, I think all of us would agree that 5 years is ridiculous. I mean, how that ever got in there, that's one of those, how did that happen kind of things. But I think the broader picture is what we do about ongoing in the future with regard to just having no coverage for people. I mean, it may be what we have to do. I agree with you that we have to balance the cost of fixing streets and having an adequate fire and police department and public services, all those things. We have to balance those things. But when you look at what a good job that one benefit has done in ensuring that we have a quality workforce, and we really do have a quality workforce, and we've kept people here because of it. People that could have gone someplace else and made more money, they've stayed here because of that. And so we have to analyze the impact on our workforce of changing that benefit that dramatically. That's all. And we may not be able to fix it. I mean, the real key to it would be somehow for health care costs to come down. Frankly, in my opinion, we'd have to go to a single-payer system nationally to make it work, to drop the cost of health care enough to make this work. One of the reasons we don't have a single-payer system now is people don't want to do it. It's kind of essential to what's we're seeing. If everybody would go to a higher deductible plan and where you don't pick your own doctor and all that kind of stuff, our cost would drop also. We'd get that same impact. And so I think as citizens, we're going to have to, each of us are going to have to weigh what we choose, what we think for the future for ourselves and for the city. So anyway, I'm repeating myself.
Any other comments? All right. Have we voted on 9L yet? We have not, right? All right. Is there a motion on 9L? Cast your votes. It passes 8-1. Item 9M. I understand we do not need executive session on that item.
Do not.
All right. Well, just pass the resolution. Yeah. Is there a second? All right. Cast your votes. 9M passes unanimously. 9N, we also do not need executive session. Is there a motion here? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item O, we do need executive session, so I'll look for a motion to move that executive session. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 9P, we need executive session. Is there a motion to move that item to executive session? All right. Cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Item 9Q, we do need executive session. Is there a motion here? Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Under 9R, we do need executive session. Is there a motion? Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. And item 9S, we need a motion to move that one into executive session. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. It is. All right. Claims recommended for denial. Is there anyone here hoping to speak under any item listed under 9T, claims recommended for denial? All right. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 10A is claims recommended for approval. Is there anyone here hoping to speak on any of those items? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Which brings us to items from council. James, you have anything for us today? Ed?
I have a question. Oh, David left. Maybe Pete. I was just going to echo Meg's comments about the high school students getting to ride the buses. Thanks, Pete, for working on that for so many years. I was going to ask David, I guess, because they voted unanimously, that's a 6-month trial that starts on January 1st? Is that...
I wasn't at the captain board meeting. I believe that's correct. Pete, you were involved in probably more negotiations. It's clearly a pilot. Yeah, it's clearly a pilot program, and it starts January 1st, and it's for juniors and seniors.
Okay.
Jason.
You know, so the 6-month pilot program, what's the criteria for making it permanent, or how do you decide if it...
Yeah. Okay, so our plan is, during this 6-month trial period, to look at different factors to determine whether or not the program is a success, and should it be expanded not only to Oklahoma City public school systems, but do we also look at other school systems within our service area. So although we don't have like specific performance targets, we have determined we're going to look at ridership. We're going to look at saturation, which is basically, how many of the high schools are using the program. We're going to look at, obviously, incidents. We want to make sure the students properly know how to use public transportation. And then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to monitor capacity. We do have several bus routes during peak time that are getting into that, high 60% in terms of seated capacity, so we want to monitor those factors as well. So we're going to look at all of that. We have we really feel like we've set the program up to succeed. We hope we have a lot of good news and good indicators to look at the end of 6 months.
Do you know, Jason, how many schools our transit system goes in close proximity to?
I don't have the exact number. I can tell you that the majority of the Oklahoma City public school middle schools and high schools we do serve. We've looked at that before. We have a map with all of the locations of the schools in relation to our routes. Don't have the exact number, but it is the majority of the middle and high school.
Okay. Thanks.
Up there, let me, I want to tell you how much I appreciate it. For me, it's been a 5-year-long discussion about what's right and what's fair and what makes sense. And I really think the solution we've come to is a fair one. I think juniors and seniors in Oklahoma City will be a perfect pilot program. I would hope we can see it expanded to some of the other systems that we serve. Crooked Oak is a perfect example. Western Heights are 2 examples of where kids really would need it. Putnam City system is, so I can't say enough to thank you for what's happened. It's just, and I wish you'd pass that along to your trustees, because this has been a vision of mine like 5-6 years now, and to see it all come to pass is just really great, and I appreciate it.
I'll certainly pass that along.
That's the only question I'd have. Do other cities already have this program, and what's the impact on the system?
Well, different cities have different variations of some type of student discount program. The one that we probably most closely compare to is the recent program that was launched in Tulsa. We've had discussions, I've had discussions both with a representative from the school system as well as Tulsa Transit, and their program is a little bit different. It is free for high school students. My understanding is it's during the school year or when school is in session. Our program's a little different in that we certainly want the program to allow students to get back and forth to school, but we also recognize the need to really be able to allow students to use that program at all times for whatever reason. I mean, it could be getting to a part-time job, it could be an extracurricular activity, it could be even a medical appointment for that matter. So I think our program is a little bit more expanded than what Tulsa's is. As far as results go, I can tell you that Tulsa just launched their program in August, and through several months here, I guess 4 months into the program, they're between 300 and 400 trips per day. So, which, looking at our capacity and where we're at in terms of peak time and seated capacity, we can certainly handle that and then some on our existing system.
Thank you very much.
The other issue is the deafening silence. 36 hours ago, this is not about COVID, but, sorry. 36 hours ago, we had a 5.0 earthquake 1 mile from one of the world's largest and most important oil storage and transport hubs. And it just seems like we as a city, the other municipalities, the Oklahoma Municipal League, need to join the conversation. I mean, the silence is deafening. It's almost like a collective insanity, like we've got a family member that's had 3 DUIs and we just don't say anything even though we know it's likely to happen again. And just now the Corporation Commission says that they're going to look at the 750 square miles around Cushing. I mean, they didn't think of that before with the transport hub there. We have all kinds of disposal wells within city limits and right on the outskirts of Oklahoma City. Do we have to have an event within Oklahoma City before the Corporation Commission looks at the disposal wells within Oklahoma City and around Oklahoma City? It just seems like we shouldn't wait for an event to join that conversation, because it doesn't seem like you can predict where they're going to happen based on established fault lines. There's a new book coming out by Robert Kennedy that looks at a lot of this collective behavior, and it has an entire chapter on Oklahoma. I mean, people outside of Oklahoma are noticing the silence and the lack of activity. We've normalized deviance. I think if you took any of us 20 years ago and told us that this would happen, we'd all be in shock. But now it's just been incremental, and we've all normalized deviance to an extent that there's just this, I don't understand the silence. So I would hope the Oklahoma Municipal League, the cities throughout Oklahoma City, including the city of Oklahoma City, would join this conversation. And whether that's with the Corporation Commission or whoever, but specifically for us, look at the disposal wells within Oklahoma City and in the immediate vicinity. Thanks.
Larry?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd just like to remind people today is Election Day and to go out and vote. And just like to pass along a little personal experience. This was earned on Thursday, so it's somewhat suspect compared to the people that are still going to go out and go through the lines today. But I'd just like to pass along to the City County Election Board the only thing I can speak about is between 8 o'clock Thursday morning and 9 o'clock. It was a very well-run, organized effort out there that took care of people who had disabilities. They actually took them into an area and brought the ballots to them. The people that were waiting in line were all treated very collegially, professionally. They had it organized as to what happened, and the line went very fast. On Thursday morning, with literally over 1,000 people in line, it took less than 45 minutes to vote, and I think that's a real worthy of praise to the folks in the City-County Election Board. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Pete, anything else?
I attended a meeting this week sponsored by City-County Health concerning just a general overview among the folks that were at the meeting with regard to how they felt about what health needs there were and what things the city could be doing to help. It was a very informative meeting, and I appreciate it. I thought there was a city-county health person out here a while ago. Anyway, it was very well run. It was interesting to listen to people from the 29th and Western area talk about what they thought the city needed compared to what a lot of other groups talk about. It was very informative in terms of the difference in opinion as to what it would take to make this a great city. Anytime you get a chance to go to one of those inner city meetings, you ought to take that opportunity because you'll hear a whole different view on everything practically. That was good.
Meg?
Just a couple things, Mayor. I really wanted to congratulate Susan Ogle, who's the CEO of Positive Tomorrow's, our homeless school. She was recognized this year as the Journal-Records Woman of the Year. Incredibly well-deserved. She does such great work over there. And I was voting this morning, and I missed the Teacher of the Year, but I did just want all of you around the Horseshoe to know it may seem routine to us once a month when we do that Teacher of the Year, but Rebecca Binion, who was one of our teachers recognized here and also as a district teacher finalist, spoke at the Wall of Fame Award this year, and she was literally brought to tears by the recognition that she received from this council and from the Rotary Lunch. She said she just had never, and that's going to make me cry too, but she had never felt the respect that she felt when she was surrounded by the applause and the gratitude that everybody offered. So thank you, Mayor, for continuing the program. It's really meaningful to the people that receive the award, and I'm really proud that we're participating in it.
John?
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. To echo Meg's comments, I'm glad that we do have the Teacher of the Year program, but I would like, because to my understanding, we only do it for the larger school districts, not including the smaller school districts. So several school districts in my particular ward, they're not able to be a part of because of the size of their school. So we can make some changes to allow, if a school district is within the city limits, that we include all the schools, not just the larger schools. The other deal is, please go vote. Thank you.
All right. Mark?
I'd like to echo Larry and John's comments. We have a wonderful gift, and that is the right to vote. Please exercise your right to vote today. Thank you.
All right. City manager reports.
Mayor, we're going to start this morning with a presentation from Mike Carrier to update us on Convention Visitors Bureau activity.
Thank you, Mr. Couch. Council, good morning. Pleasure to be here with you. It's hard to believe that it's already the end of the first quarter after feeling like I was just here a couple of weeks ago giving our annual report, but it has been a good quarter. You have seen our report for the first quarter. I'm just going to hit some of the highlights, talk about a couple of other things, and certainly answer any questions if you have them. First quarter results, convention sales, we're moving along at a nice clip. The first quarter for sales leads, this is the pipeline of future business that we're looking for Oklahoma City. 234,000 room nights in our leads program right now, up from 149,000 this time last year, so a 57% increase. We are seeing a lot of interest in what's happening, and I would tell you that after some of the press has covered and this is national press that has covered the progress of the convention center design and the announcement a few weeks ago about the Omni Hotel. We're seeing significant additional interest, and I'll talk about that again in just a moment. So first quarter bookings, 44,000. We're at 22% of our goal. That's about normal for where we would be this time of year. Matter of fact, that's up about 8,000 room nights from where we were this time last year. So we feel like we are on pace and see that as a positive. In our tourism side of the house, of motor coaches and visitors, first quarter we had about a 9% increase over last year in terms of the number of coaches. We saw an increase in the number of people, but unfortunately we saw a slight decrease in the number of room nights. These are groups that are day trippers or passing through and stop to see the memorial or some of our other attractions and then move on and don't spend the night here. But we do know that there's a lot more business coming to Oklahoma City, and we're not concerned about that as a year over year. I think the next is equine. I would brag just a little bit on the fact that for the 41st year we are hosts this week and next week for the American Quarter Horse World Championships, 41st year in a row. They have exhibitors here from several countries around the world. They have a few more horses than they had last year, but they have quite a few more entries. And that's important to us because that means that some of these folks are coming in and staying longer. So that show here through the end of next week, and then Thanksgiving Day we begin the Reigning Horse Futurity, which again, a major show for us. We are on pace with where we normally are this time of year in terms of rebooking shows, getting those into the system. In our marketing and communications, we continue to do a lot with social media and with our website. Our website visits this year are up by a third, 434,000 visits in the first quarter of this year compared to 327,000 last year. So a lot of our social media work that is directing people to our website is certainly paying off, and we continue to see some good results there and a lot of good inquiries. So again, business is good. One of the things that we have taken more advantage of is the opportunity to pitch stories to travel writers. You talk about travel writers and people are going, well, magazine sales are down and other things, and yes, that is true, but social media has picked up a huge chunk of that business now, and there are more people writing stories and blogs and other items on social media than we were seeing in the actual print media. There's also a much quicker turnaround with that, so we're able to get information out much faster about what's happening now instead of pitching it and 60 days later it shows up in print. First quarter, 16 pitched stories that we have seen results from out of an annual goal of 48, so fully one-third of our goal at the end of the first quarter. Overall activity, the hotel-motel tax collections, as you all have seen, are down for the city overall. This has been very interesting because, and of course we have seen the fourth month of the year. We've got 2 months that are up and 2 months that are down. Unfortunately, the down's a little more than the up. Now, while that's a 6% decrease from the same time last year, in fact, we are still above the projected budget for the year in terms of hotel tax collections. So, you know, we're last year we were still up overall for the year versus the prior year. We were down $7,000 on a $14 million collection, but we're seeing some decreases right now, but we also see some good things happening in the coming months with some of the business that we know is coming in, particularly during the spring for the fiscal year. Couple of quick comments. We just attended a major show called IMEX. It was held in Las Vegas. This is one of the largest shows in the country. It's an international show. There were over 3,200 hosted buyers Those are people that are planning meetings, conventions, incentive trips, other things to places around the country and even around the world. There were 139 countries represented at this show. It was a very interesting show. I went out for the day to see the show and also to visit with a couple of folks specifically. But we benefited significantly, and again, this goes back to some of the progress that we're making. SMG, our facility operator for the new convention center, had a booth one aisle over from us. Omni Hotels had a large booth on the other side of the hall, and we saw a lot of traffic between those three booths. Omni was sending people to see us so that they could get a good look at the convention center. SMG was doing the same thing with some of their clients. We had the plans and the renderings for the convention center that we were able to show them. And so we're seeing significant increases in interest, not only for what we're doing, but because of the partners that we are looking at working with. So it was a very good show. The other thing that I want to talk to you about real quickly is that hopefully you all will remember a couple of years ago, the legislature passed the Quality Events Bill. And we have come to you all on one occasion and asked you to declare an event as a quality event. And the Cliff Notes version very quickly is that if this event is classified as a quality event, if it goes the way it's supposed to and things are as positive as we expect them to be, then there is the potential for the state, through state sales tax, to provide a rebate to Oklahoma City of the amount of money, up to the amount of money that we actually spent in tax dollars for that show. We have done this one time, and it's always a guessing game as to whether you're going to get anything back. We invested heavily in the Arabian Youth World Show that was here this past July. Brand new show, prime example of the Quality Events Bill and what it was meant to do. And we invested $125,000 of hotel tax funds in supporting that show. We just got a check, the city got a check, for $125,000 from the state. So that program worked exactly as it was envisioned to work, and that money now goes back into the hotel motel tax for event support and gives us the opportunity to use those dollars to support other events that will come in and bring new dollars to Oklahoma City. So just want you to know we're very selective about how we use that. It's not easy to use, and the state looks at it obviously very closely, but indeed it did work.
What's our next quality event?
We're looking at that right now. It's and I'll be honest with you, Tulsa has used it several times, and I don't know that they have ever gotten back what they spent. We were surprised. We expected to get maybe 50%, but indeed we got the entire thing. And so we're going to be very judicious about using it, and we're going to make sure that the events that we come to you all asking you to declare it a quality event are the types of events that really give us that opportunity. So we're looking, but we're going to be cautious about it and judicious with it. So be happy to answer questions. Thank you all for your continued support, and we're pleased with the way things are headed.
Yeah. Question. I just driving past the fairgrounds on the highway and just all the incredible amount of people. And what do you think about the amount of retail and restaurants in the immediate vicinity of the fairgrounds on 10th? And do you think it's adequate? Do you think we need to, as we get ready for the bond, do we need to start thinking about economic development in that immediate corridor? Do you get feedback from participants that they wish there was more?
The equine industry is very happy with Oklahoma City. They love this place. And it's interesting talking to them. I've asked a number of them where they stay, where they eat. These people spend so much time at the fairgrounds during the day that when they leave in the afternoons or evenings, they go all over the city. They eat in Bricktown. They eat up on Memorial. They eat, in Northwest Expressway or Hefner Parkway, or, most of the restaurants work with us very nicely to stay open later in the evenings because of the show schedules. Some of the shows have adjusted their schedules to end a little bit earlier so that their people have the opportunity to get out and eat. But they enjoy getting out, seeing other parts of Oklahoma City. So it's an easy community to move around in. they have found how to get from the fairgrounds to Bricktown without getting on the interstate, or to get up to Memorial or wherever they're going. And so I think the idea of more economic development and more retail or other development out there is fine. I don't think we need to do anything special. I think that's a situation where there are a lot of folks that are looking at all of that, determining if it's the right thing to do. But the horse show people are very happy with what we have and what we offer them, and they all seem to be finding the things that meet their needs without too much problem.
During the day, do they mostly eat at the fairgrounds or just?
They'll eat there at the fairgrounds, or they'll jump in their car. They'll run out Reno, particularly. You've got Earl's and you've got Trappers and you've got a number of other restaurants out Reno and on Meridian. And so they spend. It's somewhere relatively fast. Their day starts at about 4 in the morning. So their lunch is a whole lot earlier than the normal business people's lunch, so they can get in and out of those restaurants before the crowd hits, if you will. And so they have found their way, and they help each other tremendously in recommending places to go.
Great, thanks.
Mike, the New York Times and some other publications have been talking about a shift in the convention business away from cities like New York, and where hotel rooms are pricing meetings out. Is that the case, and is that what you're saying? Because it really talks about mid-tier cities where we would fall as being the real beneficiary of a whole new opportunity in conventions.
We've been seeing that for some time. It's becoming more prominent and more prevalent in the industry. The opportunity that we have right now, we are the only significantly sized, I should say, city in the country that's building a new convention center. And so there's a lot of attention being placed on us. There are some small buildings being built in some other places, but the facility that we're building, the package we're going to have to offer, provides a great opportunity for some of these groups that are looking for new destinations, looking for more affordable destinations, particularly in the center of the country, to take a real strong look at us. We have coming in tomorrow, and this is a perfect segue, thank you. Tomorrow we have 9 meeting planners coming in from around the country. This will be the first meeting of our customer advisory board. These are people that we would like to be customers. They are customers. They have been customers. And they're coming in here to take a look at Oklahoma City, see what we are doing, give us their comments on it, talk to us about other things we might want to look at doing, both in terms of infrastructure, but in terms of services and the development of new product privately as opposed to publicly. And so they're coming in here because they are truly interested in seeing. It's the same thing that we saw at IMEX, people that we would never have had the opportunity to talk with that are looking for new places to go and looking for places like Oklahoma City. The other thing, and it goes to somewhat to Mr. Shadid's question, these people look at Oklahoma City as being, we can come here and we're the big fish in the smaller pond. We're not competing for services, for restaurant seats, for airline seats coming in and out, for rental. We're going to be the big show in Oklahoma City over this period of time, and they like that. They like being treated that way, and consequently, we're seeing some really nice opportunities. It's why you see that significant increase in the number of leads. People doing exactly what you're talking about, man.
It gave me another good segue, and I wanted to talk about food. And I really, want to think and be very thoughtful about the selections that we make for the new convention center. I hope that SMG and others are looking at best practices around the country, healthy opportunities, good food, valuable food. As much as I love a good hot dog, I want to make sure that we've got some really interesting choices. And convention centers and fairgrounds around the country are elevating what they offer. And we have a unique opportunity to move away from the situation we've been under into a brand new opportunity. And I just hope we seize the moment.
we're very excited about what we think is coming, and knowing the people that are involved from both SNG and Omni, and some of the things they've done in other cities, we're very excited to see that opportunity coming and think that they will do a very nice job.
All right, Mike, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the 5-year capital plan, Doug Dollar is going to introduce Parks and Public Works this morning.
Yeah, we've got Parks and Public Works to present today. In 2 weeks, we'll have the adoption of the 5-year capital plan. This has already been before the Planning Commission. They recommended adoption or approved it as well a few weeks ago. So we're just kind of moving through the process. These are the last 2 presentations we'll have from departments, our Parks and Public Works. So turn over to Parks.
Good morning, Your Honor, and City Council. Doug Cupper, Parks and Recreation. Just a segue, I'm going to capitalize on it. I did my part for the Convention and Visitors Bureau. We brought the State Parks and Recreation Society to Oklahoma City for the first time in 25 years. So they're here this week. They're enjoying their times here in the big city. So I'm helping Mike as much as I possibly can. We're here to talk about the 5-year capital plan. We extensively use our Bible, if you will, for lack of a better term, the master plan that you all approved back in the spring of 2014. That is the document that we review constantly when we look at putting together the 5-year capital plan, and we also review it as it relates to any of the GO programs that we are either currently involved with or our future plans for additional GO funding. But it's to maintain our facilities and improve the physical assets. We want to make sure that we're developing facilities that the neighbors and the citizens want to have in their communities, in their neighborhoods. We want to make sure that we continue to improve access to existing parks, increase awareness of the value of our facilities to the city situation through economic impact. We want to make sure that as you all approve new developments across the city, within our city limits, that we are also being cognizant of whether we are serving those areas with park elements and making sure that we try to figure out how to get those new parks into the system. And of course, the biggest thing is establishing agreements to be able to maintain those facilities once they have been created. Our 5-year plan is set at about $154.7 million. You can see how that's stretched out over the 5-year period of time, and we'll go into a little bit of that here in a few minutes. It's a daunting number, and you know, when we were putting this together, it scared the bejeebies out of me, but it is what it is, and to keep pace with what the citizens have told us they want, this is the activities that we're faced with. The way it's broken down right now is park improvements at 72.8, facility improvements are 70, and of course paving and walkways and paths and trails are at 11.9. Even though, I want to point out a cliff note here, in our master plan, if you went back to the master plan, the number one thing that our citizens asked for was walking trails and pathways. We didn't build a big number into this 5-year plan because we're still capitalizing on the MAPS program that is creating more pathways for the city system. You know, with the Will Rogers trail starting construction any moment now, and the public meetings we had down at Stanley Draper for the 13-mile trail around Stanley Draper, we thought it was more prudent of us to think about investing our dollars more heavily in park improvements and facility improvements. This is kind of the pie chart of how it's broken down. 7.7% park improvements, 45.2% for facilities, and of course paving and walking is 47%. The funding sources that we've identified right now is of course, you know, the biggest pie piece there is the unfunded. Again, this is our plan, this is our goal, this is what we need to strive for, but currently we have GEO funds
to cover about 32% of that, and then again, the maps and the special purposes also in there. Again, special purposes, just to refresh your memory, is the oil and gas funds that we get. Of course, like everybody else, they're not growing, so that special purpose is a fairly small number. The biggest piece of the unfunded is for our Civic Center Music Hall. Everybody knows that it was built in 1937. Most people understand that it was part of the original MAPS program back in '95. It has not been significantly touched in the 15 years since MAPS invested the money into the music hall itself, and it's still maintaining its place in this country in the top 10% of performing art venues. But the building is old, and there are other portions of that structure that are in desperate need of revitalization and modernization. One portion of the $60 million that is in our capital plan, $3 million is being covered. We are right now looking at replacing our sound system so that our clients can continue to put on the very high-level performances that our resident companies and others bring to our community. One of the park improvements that is underway right now is at Military Park. I know most of us drive Classen. We just talked about the Milk Bottle Building, which is an epic monument right at the south end of Military Park. It's going to be a keeper for a long, long time, but all the work that's going into Military Park in the expectations of that great piece of art that the Vietnamese community has graciously donated to the city. Everything's coming together. I think when we have the ribbon cutting out there sometime next year, hopefully you will see a dynamic space for that neighborhood and for that area. Another one that again, it's apropos that we're doing our capital plan today. You approved TIF funding for the Red Andrews Park and Municipal Gym today. The inside of the gym has been redone. You can see how what a quality job our contractor did on the playing surface. We expanded the capabilities of fitness in this building as well. It's more usable. It looks better both inside and outside. But the partnership with Mickey and Brian and the whole Midtown folks on creating a new green space from a parking lot, we're really excited about moving that one forward. And again, the rendering that is up there that Brian Fitzsimmons did is going to be a real keeper in the Midtown area. Another one that is under design right now is our South Lakes Sports Complex. Again, communicating with the South Lakes Soccer Association. Originally, the master plan for South Lakes showed 4 baseball diamonds down in this area. But in talking to the South Lakes folks, the Soccer Association, they have grown exponentially. They need additional quality playing fields at South Lakes. Currently, with the 12 fields that they have, they could not qualify for quality tournaments, regional or otherwise, soccer tournaments. Adding 5 fields at South Lakes gives them the opportunity to be able to bring teams to our town instead of our town teams going to Frisco, Texas, or Johnson County, Kansas, or Colorado, places like that. Those folks will be coming to our city with the new venue that will be created over the next 6 months at South Lakes. Paving and walking trails, this is just an example of how we have been able to reasonably pool our different propositions that were approved in 2007. We have a new playground that went in under one proposition. We got our walking paths and pavements going in from another. But staff has done a dynamic job working with Public Works' staff in bringing those together so that we're tearing up a park one time rather than doing paving and then coming back and doing playgrounds at another time. Again, the partnerships that we've created, the parking lot on the left is at Harn Park that we just opened this year, and I'll get into that in a minute, but again, multi-use. When there's not very many cars there, the kids in the neighborhood can play basketball. It saved us in paving a little bit more of that green space in that park. Partnerships is key. We're always looking to be able to stretch those capital dollars, just like in Red Andrews. Kerr Park really set some of the tone for the way we are thinking on a regular basis for our capital plan. The joint venture that we had with Sandridge out there, it's still a strong partnership despite their woes in this economy. They are still very enthusiastic about maintaining their side of the partnership in taking care of this vital improvement that is in the downtown area. Harn, again, going back to W.M. Fremont Harn Gardens Park, this is adjacent to the historic farm properties. We gave it a theme, but again, partnerships. This was done with CDBG funds that we worked with the planning department to acquire. And again, it was something that the neighborhood, I know Mr. Pettis knows this, there are neighbors that came to our grand opening that have lived there for 30 years waiting for something to happen on this property. So we were tickled pink, and again, we're working with planning in this capital plan to see if we can't capitalize on some more of those resources from the federal government. Some of the successes, as you know, the Lincoln Clubhouse has been a great success. Golf has gone up even in this economy, and we're happy with the success. We just had a report. The facility has been able to generate an extra $100,000 in revenues because of this new facility being open and being able to attract non-traditional golf activities. And the forecast and expectations for next year are even higher gains, even on the non-golf related activities. And of course, again, another partnership to bring a quality facility to our town, the indoor tennis facility at Will Rogers with Mark Allen and the First Serve nonprofit. One of the improvements to our community centers was at Pilot. Not only did we refurbish the look of that facility, but we were able to create a computer lab so that the kids in the neighborhood can come there and do homework and do research on the internet and be able to get homework assistance in our after-school programs. And again, we want to expand this to all of our functioning community centers so that connectivity is there and the learning labs are there so that we can help our kids in our after-school program to stay current. We also will use these in our summer recreation programs so that the kids can stay. The teachers feel better if they don't have to do a lot of remedial math, a lot of remedial reading at the beginning of the school year. If we can keep them up as part of their rec program in these facilities through the summer, they'll be better students to start their next grade school year. So the Red Stone shelter at Will Rogers was renovated this year. It's fully accessible now for all of our citizens to be able to use the facility. And Sellers Recreation Center got a facelift and improvements. And those are some of the typical things that we hope to accomplish with this 5-year plan. And I know I went through it in a pretty fast way, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Is it your hope that if your items can be placed in the 17 bond issue and it passes, that you'll be able to completely fund it?
Yes, sir.
That's your hope?
That's our intent.
Comments or questions? All right.
Yep. The meeting I alluded to, the city-county health meeting that I alluded to earlier in the meeting about attending and the difference in what people expected from a very inner city, it was at 33rd and Southwestern. Probably 75% of it was about parks. And of that, probably 75% of that was about parks, lighted evening, soccer fields in the evening. And I missed the first part of your presentation, but is there any plans to provide lighted soccer fields in the south part of Oakland City?
It's our intent to retrofit South Lakes completely with
South
lights.
Lakes won't work, I'm telling you.
Well, I know, but I got to start with the facilities that I already have up and operating and get them operating more efficiently. So South Lakes is in our hit parade. Any sports complex that we plan to build in the future, either in this 5-year capital plan or looking out through the next GO plan, they will be lighted complexes. They won't be unlit complexes. It makes no sense for a city of our size to build a sports complex that is not lighted so that we can play our league games Monday through Thursday and then be able to host or facilitate tournaments on weekends to help generate revenue so we can maintain those fields at a high level.
Yeah, there was a lot of conversation in this meeting about South Lakes and about Early One, about how nice they were and how impossible it was for them to utilize those facilities just because of distance, time, so forth.
We're right now working with Fields and Futures, Tim McLaughlin, and one of our major leagues that was at River Park going into Lightning Creek, and we are already working on improvements. Fields and Futures are putting resources in. We're putting in resources to bring quality fields to the Lightning Creek Park for soccer purposes. But again, those are unlit at this point in time, but it is in our plans to light more of our sports complexes.
There was a lot of conversation about Wheeler. I know, as much, but I haven't seen a softball game played at Wheeler since I played in one almost.
Well, I hate to brag on what we've been able to accomplish in the 2.5 years I've been here, but we renovated many of the fields at Wheeler that had been goat pastures for too many years to even think about. Our recreation sports manager is building softball back into the community. We also know that softball will be part of the next Olympics, and we see a spike coming for softball again. So we are working with the resources that we have available to us to renovate some of our existing facilities. We've done most of the fields at Wheeler. We've done the fields up at Stars and Stripes. It's little pieces of the pie, but we're working towards those ends to improve the quality of our ability to offer quality fields.
Well, after listening to them, I think that if you develop fields, they've got to be north of 44th Street to start out with, to be, and they've got to be lighted, and there's obviously some restrictions on available land north of 44th Street. But I was struck by the fact of how much of the conversation revolved around just that, about evening activities for kids, lighted fields. It was surprising the degree to which that controlled the conversation. So it's something I think I want to really look at. There are some areas in some of the parks in South Oklahoma City that could be utilized better, I think.
We're taking a hard look at Wiley Post Park, what's left of Wiley Post, and of course the new Manuel Perez has real estate available for a couple of fields, not anything big or fancy, but we have focused on both those facilities.
Thank you.
Larry? Just a couple of comments on that line. They dedicated the Roosevelt Field and Futures complex a week ago Sunday. Beautiful facility. You ought to go out and see it. I don't recall whether it was lighted or not. I wasn't focused on that. But
I'm the same boat. I was looking at how well the field was laid out and everything else. So.
And it's a beautiful facility on 44th and Independence. And then the other complex out in that same area that I would hope is getting a lot of use is the Wendell Wissenhut complex, which was opened within the last couple of years. And it offers baseball, I would imagine softball, but also a tremendous soccer complex also. So.
Yeah, it's predominantly soccer, and our stadium there is baseball, and the high schools have discovered it, and we're working out agreements for them to be able to play their home games at Wendell Wissenhut. We'd like to mirror that on the other side of the interstate in the future.
Anybody else? All right. Doug, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm pleased to present the Public Works Department Capital Improvement Plan. We've had several that assisted in developing the information, so I just wanted to thank them today. I think most of you know J.C. Reese, who's helping me assist with the presentation, but we've had a lot of different individuals from finance and from PIM. So we've had Mike Miller, we've had Shanny Cox, we've had Ahmad Lassani, Debbie Miller, and others. So I just want to appreciate staff. It's quite comprehensive what I'll present to you this morning. But when we look at the total plan, it's $318 million. And one of the things that I'll point out is as we look at fiscal year 1920 and 2021, you see that it significantly drops off. And the reason for that is that this only includes the GO bond through 2007. It does not include the 2017. So as we look at the next few years, we're strongly funded, and you'll see this next slide in just a moment that shows that the majority of all of our work is from the GO bond. The majority of our projects are also with streets. And so this is the breakdown of those projects by work type. Everything that you see in blue is $213 million worth of street improvements. You'll see capital projects at $56 million, and then some of the other categories, including traffic, bridges, drainage, and libraries as well. When we look at the different projects, I'm going to break these down just on a map. So they're mostly GO bond. They're also spread throughout the city. So this is the traffic projects. The total number remaining in this fiscal, or at least in this CIP, is 11. Most of them are signalized intersections at the locations that are identified with yellow dots. And so we do still have some signalization projects not fully implemented. When we look at bridges and drainage, there's a total of 7 projects. These are predominantly bridges and bridge improvements. They're identified with small red circles. We also have some drainage improvements still along the Oklahoma River. Moving to facilities, kind of give you a legend on these. We've got police, we've got fire, and that makes up a lot of them, but we also have some libraries as well, and then some smaller improvements at some golf courses. We look at that total, it's 7 projects total remaining in this CIP. And then when we look at streets, you see the map becomes a lot more colorful. We still have quite a few projects remaining. Those that you see in the green boxes, that's a lot of our residential resurfacing. There's still a significant number of projects, so if we total the total street projects, there's 110 projects still yet to come. 55 of those are residential resurfacing, 32 are reconstruction or arterial resurfacings. The arterial resurfacings identified with either the blue or the red lines that you see in various areas of the city. So going back to the bond issue, when we look at the Public Works CIP, the majority of the funds do come from that 2007 bond issue, and here you'll see that total is nearly $259 million. I go back and reference that first chart that I showed. This bond issue is winding down as we look at the next few years, but we're also talking about the 2017 bond issue, and I've got a few slides at the end of the presentation to address that as well. We do have some other funding sources, and you'll see those here: capital improvement funds, public property authority, some special purpose, and we also have a few unfunded projects, and I'll show you a couple of those in just a moment. So when we look at projects, it's predominantly bridges, streets, drainage, but we also have facilities and streetscapes and some traffic projects as well. And these are some of the examples of some of the work either that's underway or completed. This was a street widening project on Western Avenue from 164th to 178th. This is actually completed. So this is the before and the after as you see it on the left and the right. This was a $5.6 million paving and water line project, but it also had about $1.6 million in sanitary sewer. It also included the construction of a new bridge. And so a very comprehensive project where we brought in a lot of different projects, completed them all as one. A lot of challenges, but the good news is the work is complete. So we're now servicing that area of North Oklahoma City much better than we had before. This is another example of a widening project on Britton Road. This one was actually originally scheduled to go from a 2-lane to a 4-lane, but after we met with a number of the residents in the area and we started looking at the traffic counts, we found that we could actually go to a 3-lane section, and you'll see some bike lanes that have been added on that road. But again, it was a widened road that improved not only the vehicular service, but we also were able to add improved pedestrian access and bicycle traffic as well. So one of the projects that I anticipate that you'll see more from Public Works, and we've talked about some widenings, is actually just a lot of our neighborhood resurfacing projects. And this is an example here. This is neighborhoods that are bound by Eastern, Bryant, Southeast 89th, and Southeast 104th. We'll typically go into these projects in excess of $1 million worth of improvements that will not only include the resurfacing of the streets, but because it's a 2007 bond issue project, it also includes a sidewalk on at least one side of that street as well. So as we go into this next year, when we talk about fiscal year 16, we have 19 miles of residential streets anticipated for resurfacing and about 15 miles of new sidewalk that'll be a part of these types of residential projects. In the next 5 years, we'll actually expend about $131 million, 89 of that in residential, 12 million in arterial, and about 22 million in streetscapes projects. This is another example of some of our traffic projects. These are some of our Project 180 photos, but again, as we continue to implement the intelligent traffic system, as we continue to upgrade signals and add signals to increasing areas of traffic and traffic congestion in Oklahoma City, these are the types of projects that you can expect. It doesn't modify the street, but we do improve that traffic flow and some of the visibility in the area. This is an example of one of our streetscapes projects on Northwest 23rd. Now, this is a multi-phase project, and this is only that section that went from Ann Arbor and Peniel that you see here on this photo. This section was about a $2 million improvement. It did include some resurfacing, but it also included pedestrian facilities. It included district markers and icons, additional landscaping. And so we're able to go into some of our commercial districts and also improve those as well, meeting with the residents, the neighbors, and the business owners. This is another streetscapes project on May Avenue at 10th to Reno. This is just adjacent to the Oklahoma City Fairgrounds. And again, you can see we've added sidewalks, improved street access. Probably the biggest thing that occurred on this project was improved traffic at General Pershing Boulevard. All of that work is now complete as well. So as we move into some of the other categories, we do have drainage projects. And the 2007 bond issue, which is the primary funding source, did not include a lot of projects, but we have 14 locations that about $1 million worth of work will go in, and a lot of them are examples of what you see here, a lot of channel repairs. You can see after some of the heavy rains that we've experienced in 2013 and 2015, we do see damage to some of our mainline channels. You'll see those repair work and some of the erosion controls that are placed into those after we're able to go in and maintenance those facilities. Looking at our bridge projects, there's two examples that I have to share. This is actually a bridge that's on Frisco Road, just south of Northwest 164th. We have some older bridges in the system, and I know that bridges have come into some questions this last year. We do recognize that some of these are in need of improvement, but you'll find sometimes that just because of the age of the bridge, it's determined obsolete, and we're replacing it with a more modern bridge. It's not that it's less safe, but there are opportunities to improve the drainage, to improve the deck surface that you see here, and then to improve to modern safety standards with the crash barriers and the new guardrails. This is a second bridge here that you'll see at Cimarron Road just south of 15th Street. And again, it's just an older bridge in the system. It was in good repair, but it was time to modernize. Here you can see that we actually had significant drainage improvements to make sure that we had a good water crossing at this location that was over a creek. We move into facility projects. I think most of these will be very familiar. This is the police headquarters that recently opened, $20 million project that was a part of our facilities projects. Moving on to one that's under construction, this is going to be the renovated Capitol Hill Library. It's $4.3 million. This is a facility that was actually built in 1952, so it's being completely modernized. You can see the renderings on the right-hand side. So we're going to reutilize the existing facility, but there's a significant expansion that's also planned there. Work is underway and be completing that in the summer of 2018. This is the new municipal courts, which is under construction. You can see on the left the older facility. It's a $22 million project that is anticipated to finish about summer of 17. And then moving on to some other projects, this is the city's central maintenance facility. This is a project that was included in the 2007. It's also multiple phases. Phase one is nearly complete. We do have several other phases, but this is a unique project where we're actually able to locate not just public works facilities, but they also have a lot of services for the fitting of police cars, radio systems. We're getting ready to also move parks, general services out to the facility, and that's a part of the CMF projects. This is what that site does look like. It's an aerial, so at the top of the drawing, or at the top of the map, is Southwest 15th. On the right side is Portland Avenue. This is also where our household hazardous waste facility is. So those that have not used that, it's located adjacent to the CMF facility. The larger buildings that you see to the bottom of the drawing is the existing facilities, and then we're actually expanding to the south. So opportunities that we have, this is the phase 1 through 3 projects. You can see we're increasing some crew sizes, rooms, we're adding the offices as we're able to centralize our operations for the city as a whole, not just Public Works. You'll see some of those new slabs and new buildings as they're constructed. And the last thing that I wanted to touch on the CIP is what we actually began with, talking about this next bond issue. So again, as we look at Public Works moving forward, as we look at streets, bridges, drainage, and then as we look at a host of a number of other projects, parks and transit, start looking again at police and at fire and future needs for sidewalks and transportation, we are in the planning process for the 2017, and I think we've discussed that several times here at the council level. So the public engagement process is just now beginning. There's opportunities at okc.gov to actually complete an online survey for the bond issue, but we're looking at a lot of that information, and we're actually preparing for the council workshop in December, where we hope to bring you a lot more information. But as it relates to the CIP for Public Works, we really rely on those funds, obviously, for the majority of the projects. We talk about the bonds sold each year. You can see a lot of the infrastructure projects. Typically, bonds are repaid over a 20-year period. And then this is kind of some of the outline that we're looking at now, but looking at a bond issue that could range anywhere from $300 to $850 million, probably on the higher end of that, looking at some of the factors that influence bond issues, just looking at the term and looking at the property tax rate. But again, that public engagement process is beginning, and then we're preparing for that vote next fall in 2017. So with that, they'll wrap up the Public Works CIP. Again, a little over a $300 million program that we would expect after this next bond issue to be larger than that. So we'll supplement that with 2017 monies and moving forward. So can answer any questions that you might have.
All right. Eric, thanks.
That's all we have this morning.
All right. Citizens to be heard? All right, we have executive session. We'll be back.